Finish what you start. The book is narrated by Prabhakar's audiobook. Chapter number 7. Deadly Pitfalls. In the science of following through, there are massive number of mistakes that you could make that could cost you your progress. Take Michael. Michael is only human. Thus he made some mistakes with follow through when he first started his at-home freelance consulting firm. He believed that starting his business would change his life overnight. He imagined getting tons of money for minimal work, having plenty of time to play with his newborn daughter, and even having time to hit the gym and get pumped like Arnold. He imagined that having no boss would free up a lot of his time. Weeks went by and he did none of these things. In fact, his expectation felt so extreme that they were intimidating and discouraging. This is called false hope syndrome. Michael thought he would accomplish a lot more than was humanly possible. His other mistake was not getting to know himself or know he worked best. He tried to impose an unrealistic schedule on himself, then just did not fit his natural circadian rhythm and work preferences. False hope syndrome occurs when you think that you can do everything on your to-do list and reach your dreams in a short amount of time. You promise yourself or a client the moon. Then you are sorely disappointed when you cannot deliver. And those big expectations have actually caused a negative effect on your working spirit. They will cause you to shrink back and be more fearful of the failure you just experienced. And you may end up in a worse state than you were to begin with. Michael was extremely disappointed by the lack of huge life changes he saw when he started his business. His life did not change magically overnight. He did not have the energy for all of those challenges he was planning to make. Plus, he hated working because he was following the wrong schedule. He began to fall behind on work and procrastinated to avoid the task he hated. He tried to work in the morning while drinking 3 cups of coffee and found he just could not function. After a while, Michael decided to take a good long look at he was trying to do and how he was feeling. He adjusted his schedule to fit his lifestyle better and stopped working so early in the morning after staying up late with his daughter, who had not yet achieved a normal sleep cycle. He found how to work on only a small goal at a time and make time for his goal when he could. Suddenly, Michael felt better and worked better. Life was just easier since he fell into a more comfortable and realistic groove. He was no longer overwhelmed and disappointed, so he stopped despising work and stopped putting work off out of loathing and dread. Like Michael, we all make mistakes, but learning which mistake to avoid give you a step up on other people. You will not tax your self-discipline or willpower for follow-through if you avoid these common mistakes. False hope syndrome. False hope syndrome, what Michael had, is where you overestimate the changes you can make. You set unrealistic expectations for what you can do and the speed, number and ease of changes you plan to make to your life. Where you can't accomplish everything on your list of desired changes, the disappointment at failing to reach your lofty goals can cause a powerful backlash that will cause you to give up hope. Even if you have extremely strong self-discipline and desire to change, you will still fail if your expectations are too high. Plan for proper expectation and figure out what you can actually hope for. Learn to let go of hopes that are not realistic and to set expectations that you can actually obtain or meet. One example of this might be thinking that you will magically be able to change your work habits, even though you have tried doing the same thing in the past and have failed. You expect to get more done with distraction and multitasking, for example, even though that has never worked for you before. Changing your approach and not believing that you can initiate too much self-change is essentially to being successful because it prevents you from falling into old habits and disappointing yourself. False hope is about controlling your expectation. When you can have realistic hope that you can actually achieve, it leads to confidence, competence, and skill. Anything else is just setting yourself up for heartbreak and failure, which tends to not be productive. Don't shoot too high, but don't shoot too low. Otherwise, you will grow bored and unengaged. Just remember that your goals can be entirely different from your expectation. Overthinking. Another mistake is overthinking. Overthinking is a silent killer of joy, hope, and reason. It kills your positivity and desire to carry on. Overthinking makes you inevitably fixate on the negative because they are so easy to find, and your entire worldview eventually goes dark. Overthinking is too tempting because it mimics progress. After all, you are thinking about work and doing research to make the best decision. You think you are being proactive, but really, overthinking is silently hampering you. And this is another classic instance of mere motion versus actual action. You are considering too many options and doing too much research, which limits your ability to make an executive decision. You are wasting time doing research and forming plans for things that don't really matter, instead of putting one foot in front of other and eliminating your inertia. By overthinking, you freeze your ability to make decisions. Psychologist Barry Schwartz suggests that a paradox of choice is harmful because it leads to analysis paralysis. His study revealed that having more choices actually causes people to develop anxiety and develop making a choice in the long run. Having fewer present choices help people narrow it down. Consider when you go to Walmart and you are faced with buying a new printer for your office. Standing before the wall of printer, all of which have great advertising and boast so many features, you find yourself overwhelmed and can't settle on a printer. You panic and buy the first one you see. You wasted so much time deliberating over printers and you ended up not even using the information you gained because you got overwhelmed. You can decide because it's too much information overloading your brain in the process. This is a perfect illustration of how overthinking kills your ability to follow through and execute. So instead of overthinking, place on emphasis on action. Most actions are reversible. You can easily return a printer to Walmart, but you will have gained no further information if you stay in the same place without moving. You can also limit the choices you give yourself and the criteria you use. Focus on the main thing you need and find the easiest choice that meets your need. Don't fall down the rabbit hole of researching obsessively on Google or comparing thousands of brands to find the best one. Chances are 90% of them do exactly what you want with little variance. So what are you actually deliberating over? If you are tasked with buying the new office printer, determine 3 traits your office needs in a printer. Then go to Walmart and buy the cheapest one that meets all of those needs. Put blinder on such that nothing else matters. This is a classic example of limiting your information intake and being willfully ignorant. Overthinking can sneak in because we don't have clarity on what matters. So when you can articulate those, suddenly you can see clear choices. Worry. Worry is closely related to overthinking, and it is the third powerful mistake you might make in following through. Worrying is when you ruminate on problems, real or imagined. This takes you out of the present, which you have control over, and puts you into the future or past, which you have zero control over. Worrying steals your control and composure. But taking action and focusing on the present empowers you by letting you get things done now. Try to switch your mindset toward action and solutions rather than problems and mistake. Furthermore, worrying makes you focus on things that may not even be real and that you cannot change. And you devote time and energy to these worries that you could be spending on work instead. It's a tall task to tell someone to worry less. But the truth is, worrying causes you to suffer twice. Once during the worrying, and again if the dreaded event actually occurs. And if it doesn't occur, you have just suffered for no reason at all. Worrying can also masquerade as productivity, but again, it is wasted motion. It's a lot of energy spent to get nowhere. Focus on what you can control and do something about it. Focus on things that are real and have happened, not imaginary outcomes or scenarios that may never come to pass. Do what you can do at the moment because that's all you can control. In doing so, carry a mindset of action and control rather than fear. Know thyself. The final major mistake many people make is failing to get to know themselves. Knowing yourself enable you to figure out how to work best and create the most beneficial environment for yourself. Not all people work the same way. One man might like a detailed schedule that lays out every part of his day, while another man needs breathing room and spontaneity. One woman needs a quiet environment where she can work alone, while another woman needs friend and a social work environment to thrive in. Like Michael found out, don't impose unrealistic or unsuitable schedules, ideals, or environment on yourself and expect to succeed. Find what is best for you and then implement that to thrive. You can only work best if you are in your best environment. Find what that environment is instead of forcing yourself to conform to something that does not suit you and instead make yourself miserable and hinder your productivity. When you use your preferences and strength to your advantage, you are more likely to follow through. This is because you are allowing yourself to work at your very peak. You are not fighting yourself and are instead working within your flow and accessing your strength. You are not making yourself miserable because someone else's formula for success. Stop judging yourself and other for being different. We are all different. Our productivity is fragile and requires particular care to flourish. Treat yourself to what helps you thrive if you want to follow through. Figure out what times you work best during the day. Then work during those times. Don't let others judge you for not being functional before 8 am or for working late into the night. Working at your best time will enable you to be more productive and follow through more easily because you are using your energy when you have the most of it. Don't try to work early in the morning if you are not a morning person because that will only lead you to failure. There is another component of getting to know yourself. Diagnosing why you are failing and fixing the underlying problem. It is diagnosing the cause and source of your lack of follow through so that you can address it. Only when you determine the cause of your poor follow through can you actually do something about it. Don't make the common mistake of attributing failure to the wrong cause, or you will never be able to address and correct the issue. Be Sherlock Holmes if you are having trouble with follow through. Using the power of deduction, deduce what is wrong and why you are not being productive. Maybe you are reading another time management book when you should be keeping a calendar and not wasting time on books. Maybe you are trying to organize and label everything when really you just have too much stuff and need to get rid of some of it. Maybe you are discouraged, so you procrastinate and thus keep failing and wondering why your discouragement is growing. Really consider how you feel when you don't follow through. Look at your feeling during the commencement stage of a project and see if you feel overwhelmed or put things off for too long to reasonably finish them. Why do you specifically give up? When you find the reason, you can figure out how to apply one of the rule or mindset in this book to rectify the problem. Failure problem. Failure happens and it's going to happen. It's not the end of the world. It's entirely not the end of productivity. But failure is useful because when we are aware of the cause, when we see the cause, we can see how to fix it and how to avoid repeated failure in the future. When we don't, we doomed to repeat our mistake until we do realize what's actually going on. Avoid wasted time by diagnosing your reason for failure early on. Takeaways. Pitfalls to following through and finishing what you start. Too many to name, but a select few in this chapter are stronger and more dangerous than most. False hope syndrome is when you expect that you will be able to change or improve to an unrealistic degree. When you inevitably fail to meet this mark, there is a very real backlash that result in your being even less motivated and disciplined than before you started. To beat this, set proper expectation based on your history and understand the difference between goals and expectations. Overthinking is sneaky because it feels like action and it even feels productive, but it's not. Overthinking is when you fixate and can't seem to take the first step towards action. Zero in all the details that matter. Deliberately ignore everything else and you will feel much more clarity. Worrying is when you fixate on everything and inevitably start drawing out the negative scenarios and pitfalls. However, worrying is also when you fixate on things that can't control while ignoring what you can control, the present. The solution is to focus on what you can do right now and only right now. Do you know yourself? Well, what about in terms of productivity and how you work and produce the best? You can consider time of the day, environment, setting, and so on. But you should consider that knowing yourself is also the ability to look at yourself and understand why you may have failed and come up short. It is the ability to self diagnose and be self aware.